Watching Hurricane Zeta about to move across Yucatan. What about our local impacts? Details next on the news at 10.
Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott has more on what kind of weather can we expect this week. Richard?
Hey, Tamika, let's talk about it. So the very latest information just in from the hurricane hunters and the National Hurricane Center, literally within the past 5 to 10 minutes. Hurricane force winds coming on shore near Cancun and Cozumel. This is a Category 1. Winds of 80 miles an hour sustained. It's moving northwest at 13. Here is the very latest track for the National Hurricane Center. This comes across the Gulf of Mexico tomorrow and on Wednesday, making landfall just south of New Orleans. This will be sometime Wednesday night around 7 or 8 o'clock, officially making landfall. Then it moves into Alabama as we go into Wednesday night and Thursday morning. Interesting to note, the Hurricane Center still has this as a tropical storm near Gadsden, Alabama, not too far from Weiss Lake at 40 miles an hour. It's going to move across our central counties, and this will produce quite a bit of wind across central Alabama. Right now, though, we got tropical storm watches for southwest Alabama. Would not be surprised to see that extended for areas south of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. Winds could gust over tropical storm status there, maybe up to 45, maybe even 50 miles an hour, somewhere just below Interstate 59. We'll talk more about this, plus look at your local forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Start you off this evening looking at Hurricane Zeta, now Category 1 storm coming in the Cancun Cozumel area of the Yucatan Peninsula. This is moving northwest at 13 miles an hour. Winds sustained at 80. Again, that is the Category 1 on the scale there. And here's the latest track, brand new information from the National Hurricane Center. This will maintain hurricane status likely into the Gulf of Mexico, maybe strengthen just a bit between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning. Then it comes into the far southeastern tip of Louisiana Wednesday evening, landfall time, sometime around 7 p.m. on Wednesday, and then it tracks across central Alabama. Interesting to note, the Hurricane Center still has this as a tropical storm near Weiss Lake in northeast Alabama with 40-mile-an-hour sustained winds. On this track and the fast motion across Alabama, we'll see some wind across our state. So we updated our maps here. This is what we think is going to happen for areas like Livingston, Utah, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Gadsden. Wind gusts upwards of 40 miles an hour. There may be a core in here between Demopolis, Linden, Clanton, and Talladega. You could see some gusts upwards of 50 miles an hour. If this indeed occurs, you could have some tree and power line damage down there over southwest and south central portions of Alabama. That is stretched northeast, wherever that core of that storm tracks. Due to the fact it's going to be moving so fast, the wind energy will continue near the core of that. The further north you go towards Hamilton, just a breeze around 20 miles an hour between 9 p.m. Wednesday and 9 a.m. Thursday morning. There is a tropical storm watch for much of southwest Alabama, including areas like Butler back towards Thomasville. Also Millers Ferry, Camden, tropical storm winds likely there, and we'll likely see these upgraded to warnings over the next 24 hours. Hurricane watch in effect for the Mississippi and southeast Louisiana Gulf Coast. In terms of rainfall, I think many of us between 3 and 5 inches across central and north Alabama between tomorrow and Friday. Most of the rain's gone by Friday, but again, the core impacts will be Wednesday night, and on Thursday, locally heavy rain likely.
News at 5.
We're glad you're with us tonight. I'm Lynn Brooks. Just an hour ago, a state of emergency went into effect for Alabama. Governor Kay Ivey saying while Tropical Storm Zeta is not expected to have the same impact as some of the larger storms this season, officials still want everyone along the Gulf Coast to be prepared for storm surge, possible flooding, also power outages. Let's go straight over to Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott for the latest on Zeta. Where is Zeta, Richard?
Lynn, right now just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. In fact, there's the Yucatan at the bottom of your screen, and the process of strengthening is just now beginning. It spent about 10 hours last night over land. It obviously weakened to a tropical storm, but it's beginning to regenerate. We're seeing deep convection now forming right around the center of circulation. This should be a hurricane, most likely by 10 o'clock tonight. Winds currently sustained at 65, a strong tropical storm. But again, we're beginning to see that deep convection right there in the past couple of hours form near the center of circulation, and pressures are beginning to fall. It's moving northwest at 14 miles an hour. Here is the track. There has been some change to this from the National Hurricane Center. Moves into southeast Louisiana tomorrow evening. and then quickly moves across Alabama. Here's the position at 1 a.m. Thursday morning. Still 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm over Greensboro, Alabama. Moves northeast from there. That will produce a lot of wind across central Alabama. If you are near and south of Interstate 59, gusts upwards of 50 miles an hour. 10 p.m. Wednesday through 6 a.m. Thursday. But notice here, the further northwest you go, the winds really drop off. There could be some gusts over South Marengo County, close to 60 miles an hour. There will be some power outages. We got an inland tropical storm watch for Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Gadsden, and Point South. This will be upgraded to warning soon. More on this coming up in just a few minutes. A lot to talk about tonight. First off, let's go with Zeta. This is a tropical storm. This visible satellite. The sun's beginning to set over the storm. It spent about 10 hours over land over the Yucatan last night and early this morning. It's now to the Gulf of Mexico. We're beginning to see deep thunderstorm convection form right around the center of circulation. This thing will redevelop into a hurricane likely before 10 o'clock tonight. Here's a live look. This is from Gulf Shores, from Sea and Suds looking out over the Gulf, and waves are certainly a lot larger compared to yesterday. Waves continue to increase tonight, especially on Wednesday. Dangerous surf out there on Wednesday and Thursday, but here locally, we're watching this thing here. This is Tropical Storm Zeta, winds at 65 miles an hour. It's beginning to make that turn as expected to the northwest at 14 miles per hour. Here is the very latest track. There has been some change on this. It has shifted northwest. It puts our core area more under the gun for this tropical storm, which again will be a hurricane at landfall. Moves into southeast Louisiana sometime early Wednesday night as likely a Category 1 storm, then moves right over west and central Alabama in the middle of the night Wednesday night. Here's 1 a.m. Thursday morning. At that point, if this is correct, the center's over Demopolis or Greensboro. And as that time, that is a tropical storm with 50-mile-an-hour winds. We think we will see some tree and power line damage from that. Here's what I expect across central Alabama. If you're in Gadsden, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Point South, we'll see wind gusts in excess of 50 miles an hour, but that will be very brief. It may last for 2 hours and then it moves on. To the north of that, a sharp cutoff for Hamilton, winds only at 20 miles an hour. In South Marengo County, it's possible there's some gusts upwards of 60 miles an hour down there. And in that zone across far southwest Alabama, tree and power line damage much more likely. Anybody in the red shaded area, you have that chance for power outages with this. We have a tropical storm watch for much of central Alabama, including basically the Interstate 59 corridor and points south to the east. In terms of power outage issues, there will be some for Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Gadsden. Most likely the issues will be near and south of Demopolis, where widespread power outages are going to be likely as the winds will be strong enough to bring down more trees. So here's our futurecast model. Let me show you how this is going to look. Here's some showers again overnight tonight into the morning tomorrow, and then more widespread rain comes in here during the afternoon on Wednesday. But the core we're looking at is this right here. This is what's left of Zeta. Should be a tropical storm at that point. And again, this is midnight Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Let's track this core. Notice how fast it moves across Alabama. Around 4 or 5 in the morning, it's in far east Alabama, producing still tropical storm conditions for Gadsden and Anniston. Rain amounts around 2 to 3 inches widespread. Some areas south of Tuscaloosa could see over 3 inches of rain. We'll go live to Gulf Shores, Alabama. This view from Sea and Suds. Large surf, heavy rainfall, and strong winds there. But fortunately, the core of Hurricane Zeta is passing west to Gulf Shores. We do expect water level rises over the next several hours of 3 to 6 feet for Mobile and Baldwin counties in southwest Alabama. Here is Zeta. This is a powerful Category 2 hurricane. This thing was strengthening coming up on the coastline of southeast Louisiana. Now the center circulation very close to New Orleans. Lake Pontchartrain certainly about to take a big hit from this hurricane, and again higher gusts than that, but it's moving very quickly northeast now, 24 miles an hour, and that's the reason this thing will still be powerful as it reaches west Alabama. It's moving very quickly to the northeast. Here's the track and here's the radar. Notice here how it's been moving generally towards New Orleans over the past few hours. And there's the eye, the hurricane just formally making landfall about 25 minutes ago. And we've got a lot of rain moving into Alabama, but the main issues are going to be right down here in this central area of rainfall, this core around the hurricane itself, and the most powerful winds will be right there, that eye wall. That's going to move right through Alabama tonight. Here's the track for the Hurricane Center. Again, Category 2 hurricane now moves across southeast Mississippi and then into west Alabama late tonight. Now by 1 a.m., the center circulation very close to Brent and Centerville. That's the core of the storm there. and get this wind sustained at 65 miles an hour at that point. That is incredible for a landfalling hurricane that far away from West Alabama in southeast Louisiana to see winds still that strong this far inland. So this is what we're looking at now for central Alabama. This is mainly just south of Interstate 59. It is such a close call for Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, right on the edge of that really powerful wind tonight. We're talking about winds 50, 60, maybe even 70 miles an hour close to Linden, Demopolis, Marion, Brent, Centerville, Talladega, and Gadsden. That will bring a lot of trees down. Major power outages expected here in this part of the state. But notice the further north you go towards Hamilton, winds only 20 miles an hour in that part of Alabama. Here is the time frame. This is what time it will be bad at your house. So look at this map carefully. 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. for Livingston, Demopolis, Forkland, down towards Linden and Dixon's Mills. Now for places like Reform, Northport, Tuscaloosa, Brent, Centerville, Clanton, we're talking about 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. For Jasper, Birmingham, Chelsea, Talladega, Rockford, Lineville, we're talking about 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. And then finally over in Gadsden, Anniston, Weiss Lake, that area we're looking at 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. for the time frame here in that part of Alabama. This quickly moves on. We've got inland tropical storm warnings in effect for most of central Alabama, especially near into the south of Interstate 59. The main impacts there, significant power outages likely across most of central Alabama, especially just south of Tuscaloosa and just south of Birmingham. But understand, if this thing were to shift north by just 20 or 30 miles, we will see 60-mile-an-hour winds in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. That's how close of a call it is in terms of that really sharp gradient of wind. But understand, I would prepare for power outages tonight all across central Alabama. Some of those could be for several days. Here's a look at our future radar. Let me show you what it's going to look like. So here is the core coming in around 10 p.m. for southwest Alabama. The center of the storm by midnight, close to Demopolis and Linden there. And the worst of the conditions will be just north and east of the center of circulation. At 1 a.m., the center should be just south of Tuscaloosa over Moundville, and we'll go to 3 a.m. in the center near Birmingham. Again, your worst conditions will be north and east of that center of circulation. Rainfall amounts, not a big deal necessarily speaking. Generally 2 to 4 inches of rain. There could be some isolated flash flooding. Obviously rain on radar now, but no wind impact over the next few hours. This all begins after 9 o'clock.
Zeta already impacting our local weather here. Richard Scott with the latest.
Leon, actually watching a tornado warning just across the state line. This is over in Noxubee and Lowndes County, Mississippi. Fortunately, this one should stay just to the West Alabama state line to the west of us. I don't expect this to cross over. But again, for Columbus, Mississippi, you've got a tornado warning and a possible tornado heading your way right now. We're going to watch radar trends carefully. I think that's going to be the only tornado threat for the next few hours. And then we'll watch things carefully tonight as this storm here moves into Alabama. The core of the hurricanes you saw for the live shot, the eye is actually over New Orleans. The winds are going calm in the city of New Orleans right now. They just went through the eye wall itself, but notice now it's quickly moving northeast towards Hattiesburg and Biloxi. Very heavy rain, strong damaging winds with that as well. We got a live look from Sea and Suds and Gulf Shores. This is looking out over the southeast direction. Wave heights certainly high there. Storm surge beginning to impact Alabama's Gulf Coast, but fortunately the core of the hurricane will stay just west of Gulf Shores and Orange Beach. The latest information, we got winds now 105 miles per hour. This is still a Category 2 hurricane racing northeast, about to move into southeast Mississippi. And again, here's the radar presentation of that. You see all that rain moving our way. And the track for the hurricane center is going to move right into central Alabama overnight tonight. A fast hitting storm. It's not going to last long at all, but still a tropical storm at 1 a.m. here, when the core of that's right over central Alabama, just south of Birmingham. In terms of wind speeds, I think for Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, we're right on the edge of the very strong damaging wind issues of 50 to 60 miles an hour just south of town. North of town, winds greatly drop off to only 20 miles an hour around Hamilton and Haleyville. A lot of tree and power line damage expected. You could expect power outages across most of central Alabama, possibly for a couple of days. We'll talk more about this and your local forecast coming up in just a few minutes. minutes. Lynn?
All day long and joins us live with the very latest. Richard?
Tamika, right now a lot of rain spreading into west and central Alabama. Big soaking rain pretty much all over the state now. This is part of the hurricane that's down to the southwest. In fact, the core of the hurricane itself is crossing into west Alabama in Washington County and southern Choctaw County. Winds there in excess of 70 to 80 miles an hour. In fact, maybe some gusts as high as 90 miles an hour in Washington County, just to the southwest of Jackson, Alabama. Again, this is moving northeast, so if you're in Marengo County, a heads up for you, you're going to have some powerful winds moving through within the hour. So winds are really going to pick up there quickly. Could see some power outages, beginning to see those really strong winds down below Grove Hill now. And again, all this is moving generally off towards the northeast. Here's the latest information. Wind sustained at 80 miles an hour as it now crosses the state line. We will say this with interest, it's made more of a east turn rather than northeast, so we will see if that does indeed change the impacts across portions of North Alabama. Again, here's your radar loop. See this big mess moving northeast across East Mississippi into western Alabama. There's the track for the Hurricane Center. Looks like the core of the sink's going to track across Linden, Demopolis, and maybe even places like Birmingham later tonight, then move into Georgia early tomorrow morning in those pre-dawn hours. This thing moves quickly tonight. In fact, tomorrow morning, conditions out there begin to improve quickly as this storm does move on. So in terms of wind speed, I think we'll see a core down here mainly below Interstate 59, 50 to 60 miles an hour. In Marengo County, there could be some higher gusts than that, maybe approaching hurricane force, especially over the western and southern part of the county where that core is now moving in. But notice how the sharp gradient cutoff is to the north there. If you're in Vernon, Hamilton, or Haleyville, you'll have a gentle breeze around 20 miles an hour. The best chance for any power outages will be down here in this red shaded area, mainly south of Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. We'll talk more about this and look at your 7-day coming up in just a few minutes. All right, a good Wednesday evening to you. Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott here. We're watching this hurricane continue to move east and northeast across Alabama now. The core of the hurricane, Zeta, is over southwest Alabama. Still a hurricane force winds with that. Coming across Marengo County now. Linden to Thomasville. Very rough conditions. Myrtlewood included in that as well. For the Tuscaloosa and Birmingham metros, we got heavy rain falling now and breezy conditions, but the core of the strong damaging winds is down here over southwest Alabama. In fact, we've got winds gusting over 80 miles an hour in places like Grove Hill, Thomasville, potentially Sweetwater, and approaching Linden now, and even towards Livingston and Cuba. High winds with this. This is part of what's left of the eye wall of Hurricane Zeta moving northeast quickly now. So places like Camden and Selma, winds beginning to really pick up down here for southwest Alabama. So for Demopolis, we're looking at 25 miles an hour, 35 in Selma, but again, we're seeing some really high wind indications down here in reports of a lot of power outages already in Marengo County. So if you're unable to watch us on TV, you can also watch us on Facebook Live. We're broadcasting both on TV and on Facebook Live, so multiple ways you can get us there. And notice now in Tuscaloosa, winds gusting to 26 miles an hour, 24 in Birmingham. So Zeta, as of right now, 11 o'clock, is still a hurricane, a Category 1, 75-mile-an-hour winds. The hurricane is again over southwest Alabama now, lifting northeast very quickly. So here is the core of that. Notice how it's spreading northeast just like that. So this core of strong winds could have spread further east and northeast across Alabama, and really concerned about a widespread tree and power line damage from this over the next few hours. Again, already seeing power outages over southwest Alabama. These will dramatically increase over the next few hours as this core of the Hurricane Zeta still a hurricane over West Alabama, and this thing quickly continues to move off towards the northeast, and we may see some damage out of this, especially in Marengo and portions of Dallas County and Wilcox County, similar to Hurricane Ivan back in 2004 in that part of the state, based off of what we're seeing now in the reports. Now, fortunately, this is moving so fast, it will not be a long duration event. It's going to move through quickly, so we're not going to see hours and hours of strong damaging winds. This is going to be talking more of 1 to 2 hours of really bad wind, and then it moves off to your northeast. But notice back in Mississippi, yes, we got some showers, and we'll deal with that tomorrow morning. But again, this core will be out of central Alabama by as early as 5 a.m. That's how fast it's going to track. Now, here's the path from the Hurricane Center. Notice how this moves up into East Tennessee. It's near Gatlinburg by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, still as a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. That's just surreal to see that. I can't ever recall a tropical storm 50-mile-an-hour winds that far inland. In fact, over the Smoky Mountains. So this is how fast it's tracking, that it's not going to have much time to lose that wind energy. So we are concerned about that. But let me zoom you into central Alabama so you can see the counties here. And again, there's the core of that. It's tracking over Linden. Also, we got places like Brent and Centerville, Birmingham, and looks like places like Anniston and Gadsden going to be directly in that core of this hurricane. Again, still a hurricane. It's incredible to see this thing maintaining hurricane status into West Alabama. Now, this will be downgraded to tropical storm most likely in about an hour from now. But still, even when it's a tropical storm, this thing's going to have winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour. So here's the track in terms of the wind speed here. For Tuscaloosa, we're looking at around 40-mile-an-hour gusts, but you go just south of Tuscaloosa to Demopolis and Linden and Selma, Talladega, places like Clanton, Rockford, and Lineville, we're looking at easily 50 to 60-mile-an-hour winds, maybe higher gusts than that. Again, there could be some 70-mile-an-hour gusts down here in central portions of Alabama. This all moves northeast, this whole swath there, into North Georgia by early tomorrow morning. So again, a quick hitting event. So again, through 1 a.m., places like Linden and Demopolis. Now for Tuscaloosa, we're looking at roughly through about 2 a.m. For Birmingham, midnight to around 3 a.m. And then East Alabama, Gadsden area around 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's the time frame we are looking at for you. We continue these inland tropical storm warnings in effect for pretty much all of central Alabama, basically near that Interstate 59 corridor at areas point south. We got that inland tropical storm warning, as these areas will experience tropical storm conditions. In fact, it's interesting to note that while we have hurricane conditions in Marengo County, Clark County, Washington, and Choctaw now, there's no inland hurricane warning here, and the storm's still a hurricane. So it is interesting to see there's no official hurricane warning down there, even though this thing is still a hurricane. But it will be downgraded to tropical storm soon and continue that move to the northeast. We got tropical storm warnings for the Atlanta metro, even the mountains of North Carolina in tropical storm warnings, which again just does not happen. I can't recall the last time that did happen in terms of tropical storm warnings that far inland and into the mountains of the Carolinas. So again, certainly something interesting to see. Widespread power outages down here, especially just below Tuscaloosa, just south of Birmingham. We're going to have a lot of issues over the next few hours in terms of trees coming down and power issues. Now further north you go, north of Tuscaloosa and north of Birmingham, those issues should be much more isolated. Yes, there could be a few folks without power up there, but in terms of the widespread nature of issues, they're going to be down here just south of the Interstate 59 corridor. That's where we're looking at for that. So here's our future radar. You see how this core quickly moves off to the northeast. By around 3 in the morning, conditions will be much more improved over west and central Alabama. By 3 a.m., the issues are going to be in far east Alabama, Gadsden and Anniston. And then after that, here's 5:30 in the morning. Again, it's gone. We got some showers, and yes, it will be breezy in the morning. But again, in terms of the powerful winds with this tropical hurricane, decaying hurricane, we will see that spread into Georgia pretty quickly. So before I let you go, let me check here and just going to look at some reports. I do want to mention we've also got Chelsea Aaron, who is in here with us tonight, and we'll have her live a little bit later on this evening with reports. I want to take our Tuscaloosa camera. I'm going to pull this over here on our end, and you can see winds are certainly picking up here in the Tuscaloosa area, getting a little gusty now, sustained out of the east-northeast at 11 miles per hour, but we're seeing reports of gusts over 20 miles an hour here in Tuscaloosa. And those will certainly continue to increase. Again, it's just a few minutes after 11 o'clock, about 11:07 now. And we're continuing to watch this situation where we've got these strong, powerful winds moving across central Alabama and west Alabama. What you're looking at, this is live from Bryant-Denny and Tuscaloosa, and we're looking generally off towards the northwest, and this is across the University of Alabama campus. And again, that's what we're looking at, and just checking reports here and see if we have anything else. And you know, it's been oddly quiet so far in terms of official reports. Just searching social media through Facebook, a lot of folks are reporting power outages in Marengo County and Clark County over southwest Alabama, and that continues to be an issue down there. And I tell you what, while I've got you on TV, we're also on Facebook Live. You search the WVUA23 Facebook page, you can watch us on there. And while we do that, I can actually check real-time comments here. And this is a good way to connect with us also through social media. So just checking some of the reports here. Looks like in Hale County, power out on Highway 25 north there. Rough and Hugo, that's in Marengo County. Strong winds happening down there. And again, power out in Sweetwater, lights flickering in Greensboro, that's in Hale County. Let's see, Demopolis, weather getting rough there as well. Let's see, a lot of folks in Marengo County reporting the power out. And look, just a heads up, if you are watching us on TV and you lose power, this is a great way to get a hold of us is through Facebook Live. And also want to mention on our website, WVUA23.com, you can actually watch our live stream on there as well. So we'll continue to bring that information to you. Here's a look at the radar. And look, this thing's still a hurricane. This is incredible. It's still a hurricane, and it's in West Alabama. The center circulation is near Butler in Choctaw County, but the remnant of the eye wall is in Sumter and Marengo County. That's where your most powerful winds are. It's not going to last long at all. This quickly moves through, but places like Linden and Jefferson and Sweetwater and Thomasville, very rough conditions. We're getting some reports of winds gusting to 80 miles an hour down here. In fact, this could do damage similar to Hurricane Ivan did back in 2004 in this part of southwest Alabama. So again, in Camden, Millers Ferry, Alberta, Selma, and Marion, conditions certainly going downhill there. So a lot of folks without power. And just a reminder, again, if you lose power, you can watch us on your phone. All right, it's now 11:30 on this Wednesday night. Our Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott letting you know what's happening. And I do want to mention, as we get started, we're also on Facebook Live. So if you lose power, you search WVUA23, and we are live streaming on Facebook Live, also on our website, WVUA23.com. So again, Hurricane Zeta, still a hurricane moving into southwest Alabama. The center circulation coming up on southern Sumter County and western Marengo County. That's where the core of the hurricane still is. And this is a Category 1, winds of 75 miles an hour. We're seeing some gusts of 75 easily inside this band from about Forkland to Demopolis to Camden. And then this quickly ends right after that. This thing tapers off very quickly as this does move northeast. Now, we also have Chelsea Aaron, who is here in studio with us. And Chelsea, we've been looking at some of the videos so far from this storm, and we've seen quite a bit down to the south of us.
Yeah, Richard, we're getting those videos as we're seeing more and more damage really across much of our southern counties. These are southern counties closer to the coast where we're going to see the likelihood of that damage as that core continues to move in a northeastward direction. It's really scooting along there. So I'm going to show you some videos right now that we have. Here are some in western Mobile. This is a massive power flash that we are seeing happening across West Mobile. You see power outages all across most of our southern counties. We also have another video. This is some extreme flooding we have. This is actually on Water Street. What a coincidence. Lots of water on Water Street right now, seeing a lot of flooding as we're getting most of those downpours from the outer rain bands. And we also see a truck driving here. Please don't do that. Again, turn around, don't drown. In these areas where we're seeing a lot of flooding issues and a lot of power outages, make sure you are staying inside. Again, getting a lot of videos in and a lot of pictures. Make sure you tag us if you have any videos. I know there's a lot of power outages in Marengo County as well. Make sure you are staying safe and taking those necessary precautions. Again, this will not be a long-lived event as this continues to track northeastward rather quickly, but we will be regularly monitoring this and giving you updates. Richard?
Yeah, Chelsea, we're just kind of looking back here behind the scenes, and we're on Facebook Live. And look, this is a great way to get in touch with us and let us know what's happening in your local area. And really seeing a lot of damage being reported in Marengo County right now. And you're looking at radar on your screen. And I will say this, if you are in Choctaw, Clark, or western and southern Marengo County, the core of the worst weather is beginning to already end there. It's beginning to lift to your northeast, but seeing a lot of folks are reporting without power. Very heavy rain, very strong winds down there just below Tuscaloosa. In fact, let me show you this on radar. This is what we're dealing with. We've got a lot of rain that stretches all the way up into the Tennessee Valley of North Alabama, but the core of the strong winds, or what's left of Hurricane Zeta, is down here for southwest Alabama. So for the Tuscaloosa area, we got some rain and we got some wind, and I believe we got some algo cams here in Tuscaloosa. Catherine, if we can take that, if we got that, I would like to see what it looks like. And again, we see breezy conditions here in the Tuscaloosa area, but certainly nothing overly intense in terms of wind here. And winds will pick up over the next hour or so as what's left of the Hurricane Zeta does get a little closer to our local area. You see the rain kind of blowing in curtains there on some of the streets, and I believe these are all on the University of Alabama campus. Yes, so that's University Boulevard you're seeing in those four boxes, and you're looking down towards the Strip and basically around Bryant-Denny is what you're looking at from Tuscaloosa. But again, you're beginning to see signs of winds picking up here in the Tuscaloosa area. We're seeing winds gust about 25 to 30 miles an hour here in the city. And again, this will pick up as this band right around the center of circulation gets closer to town. And winds really picking up down here from the southwest. Let me show you this. So if you are in Livingston, Gainesville, Utah, Forkland, Greensboro, Demopolis, Uniontown, and even still in Linden, conditions are not very good right now. Very strong winds being reported, some trees down already, and quite a bit of power outages. And I do want to remind you, if you can't watch us on commercial television, you can also watch us on Facebook Live. We'll be streaming there nonstop, or at least at the top of bottom of the hour nonstop, so you can watch us there as well, just to get you that information. If you do lose power, you can always pull out your phone and watch us like that. And we just want to let you know what's happening down here. So again, the worst of the conditions are beginning to at least move northeast to places like Butler and Pennington and Sweetwater. In the next 30 minutes, conditions will begin to improve in Linden. So this is a very fast event. It's not going to last very long, but if you are in Perry County, in Marion, hunker down. We've got winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour coming up on Marion now. And also in Greensboro, it looks like the core of the stronger winds beginning to move into the Greensboro area as we do speak. And again, what we're seeing is down here over southern counties, the stronger winds beginning to pick up down here. And again, some of these reports are late and old because of power failure issues. So again, some of these numbers don't really indicate what's really happening down there. So don't let some of those lower numbers fool you, because based off of what you're telling us down there, in our southern counties, it's not good at all. We've got some serious winds tracking through there. But here is the storm. This is Zeta, still winds at 75 miles an hour. And look how fast it's moving northeast across Alabama. This thing's not going to last long. Here's a look at the radar loop. And let's see, this is the past, I want to say 6 hours. Yes, 6 hours. So again, it just shows you how fast this is moving. I'm sorry, this is 3 hours. So this is a quick moving. It went from Hattiesburg, Mississippi to about Demopolis in just 3 hours. All right, so if you correlate that out, it's going to be out of East Alabama by 4 a.m. So again, this is quick, not going to last very long, but if you are in an area that is susceptible to flooding, also if you have tall trees around your house, keep in mind safety from that, as there's going to be some trees coming down, especially below Interstate 59. Here's the track, and see how this moves northeast across our state tonight. And by tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, it's all the way over in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, still as a tropical storm. How about that? Still a tropical storm that far north and east, but again, we're dealing with it now. So here's the wind impact from Demopolis to Camden to Selma to Brent, Centerville, over towards Talladega, Anniston, and Jacksonville. Winds of 50 to 60 miles an hour over the next few hours, and then it moves out. For Tuscaloosa and Birmingham metros, we're looking at winds gusting to around 40 miles an hour. And then further north you go, notice how those winds really taper off for North Alabama, only about 20 miles an hour for those far north and western Alabama areas. And I believe, Catherine, we do have another camera here that's outside in Tuscaloosa. We can take that. And again, this is McFarland Boulevard at 43. So this is over in Northport. So this is by the Northport Civic Center. If you're familiar with that part of Northport where 43 crosses US 82. And if you go west on 82, you go back out towards the Coker area. But you see the winds are really beginning to pick up. See the curtains of rain blowing against the pavement there here in the Tuscaloosa area. But you see power is on there. And so far, so good, at least from that perspective. But you see a few folks driving on the highways tonight. And I will say this, if you're driving on some of these poorly lit roads, some of these back roads, if you're out in some county land, I would certainly use extreme caution over the next few hours. There could be some trees coming down, and you may not see that until you're pretty much already up on that. So I would certainly use caution tonight. Still got the inland tropical storm warnings in effect basically along into the south of Interstate 59. That's where we'll see those tropical storm conditions over the next few hours. Includes areas as far south as Montgomery, all the way down to the Gulf Coast there in terms of tropical storm winds. And here's where your power outages are going to be most likely, basically along and south of Interstate 59, really just south of there, where I think our main concern is going to be. And then the further north you go, power outages will be much more isolated for places like Fayette and Jasper and Coleman and Gordo and Reform. But in those areas, there could be a few trees come down over the next hour or two, and that will cause some outages. So here's our model data. And again, let's just kind of track this out for you. Notice by 2:30 in the morning, conditions are quickly improving for West Alabama. Still going to be windy, but conditions will be improving quickly. The core of the really bad stuff is going to be over here in Gadsden, Anniston, Sylacauga, and Lineville by around 2:30 in the morning. And then after that, moving into the Atlanta Metro, North Georgia as well. Let's take that other camera and see what we got out there. This is, where is this, Catherine? Okay, this is on 15th Street in Tuscaloosa. And again, you see traffic flowing along just fine, but certainly a lot of wind beginning to blow there. See the traffic lights kind of swaying in the wind. We're getting gusts here in the Tuscaloosa area about 30 miles an hour now. So again, the core of the stronger winds are just south of town. That's where we're seeing those 50, 60, 70 mile an hour winds. But again, it is certainly windy here in the Tuscaloosa area as well. Let's see. Okay, I'm also checking behind the scenes here, some reports through Facebook Live, and already getting reports in Marengo County of conditions beginning to improve over western and central Marengo County just that fast. You know, it's amazing how fast this is moving on through. You know, Chelsea, this is something we talked about that's going to be a fast-hitting event for us here in Alabama. It's not going to last long.
I mean, yeah, Richard, this thing is really just scooting out of here. We have a cold front coming our way. This will be coming soon with this upper level trough. This is really helping to push this storm really out of the northeast. Again, like Richard said, it will be in Gatlinburg by around tomorrow morning and then continue on its way towards the Virginias and the Carolinas. But again, make sure you're taking all those necessary precautions till we're out of the woods. Again, right now, currently, conditions are lessening in Demopolis as it's continuing to move in a northeastward track. It will continue on south of Birmingham and towards areas like Gadsden, Anniston, towards eastern Alabama by tomorrow morning around 4 a.m. But again, we will still be monitoring this closely. Make sure you are staying safe. There's a lot of water on the roads. Again, we're still dealing with those damaging wind gusts. This is going to cause some debris. This is going to cause some tree damage. Again, things like that. So make sure you are all staying safe and aware. And again, we could see more power outages as this thing continues to track northeastward. Again, really maintaining its sustainable winds, Richard.
Yeah, Chelsea, it's really interesting that, you know, we're able to get these real-time reports. You know, technology has changed so much over the years. You know, when I started here 14 years ago, we didn't have Facebook. We didn't have the ability to communicate with people real time while we're live on television during events like this. So really, that's one good thing about social media. We know what's happening right now. We can help people downstream that's going to be impacted by the same thing. But let's see, just looking at some of the reports coming in real time in Marengo County, especially, we're seeing where conditions are improving. It's still got gusty winds down there, but not as bad as it was just a few moments ago. We're beginning to see that what's left of the eye wall that's decaying is moving northeast of there, but still there's getting reports of numerous trees down in Thomaston, and that's in East Marengo County. See, still reporting rough weather in Gallion, still very windy there in Gallion, and heavy rain falling there. Seeing a lot of people mentioning there's no power. All right, some unofficial reports, winds estimated maybe 60, 70, even 80 miles an hour in Thomaston. That's in East Marengo County, right under the core of this thing, and that's where the winds are the most powerful. And yeah, so still nasty weather over in Hugo. Let's see. Yeah, just some of the reports coming in, still showing the weather's really bad down here in Marengo County and now into Perry and Hale County especially. It looks like the core of this is beginning to lift out of Marengo. So while the conditions are still bad in places like Hugo and Fonsdale, they will improve quickly in the next 30 minutes or so. But again, this is all coming northeast. So if you're in Tuscaloosa towards Moundville and Greensboro, we still got this to go through. But the strongest winds, I think, are going to be on the east side of this. In fact, right here, I think this is where the core of the strongest winds are going to be, coming up on Marion and Selma and right now. So areas like that, even Brandon and Centerville, we're going to see winds of 60 to 70 miles an hour in gusts. So this quickly passes through. If you're in Tuscaloosa, rain is certainly falling heavily. Winds are beginning to pick up here in the city. Down to the south is where your stronger winds are going to be, really from Utah to Havana to Marion. It looks like that's where the core of your stronger winds are now, and that's lifting northeast. And if you are in Centerville, Clanton, Montevallo, back towards Sylacauga and Rockford, this core is moving northeast towards you, so understand you're going to deal with this. All right, well, a good Thursday morning to you. It's officially midnight on this Thursday morning, and Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott got a Chelsea Aaron in, also our crew in, watching this situation across central and west Alabama as what's left of decaying Hurricane Zeta moves across west Alabama. And I wanted to show you this. We've had some pretty strong wind gusts here in Tuscaloosa. We're kind of in a lull here, but this is from Brian Denny, and looking back towards the strip on the University of Alabama campus. This is in front of Publix and Rounders, if you're familiar with that part of the campus on University Boulevard. And winds out of the east or northeast now sustained at 21 miles an hour. We've seen some gusts in excess of about 35 here in Tuscaloosa so far, and I think over the next 25 to 30 minutes, the winds are going to really pick up here in the city of Tuscaloosa and Northport. So keep in mind, this is going to be the time where things are going downhill here. And then after 1 a.m., conditions will quickly improve. So it's not going to last long. This is almost like a line of thunderstorms moving across Alabama, where you have that, period of wind for maybe 30 minutes or so, and then things begin to calm down just a bit. A very similar situation in terms of just how fast this thing moves on through, but we can see in the trees there on a UA campus that winds are beginning to pick up here in the Tuscaloosa area. And the center of circulation is close to Demopolis now. The stronger winds are on the east side and on the north side of the circulation center. So basically this darker shade of orange representing the heavier rainfall, that's where your stronger winds are, and especially down here in Perry County, in northeast Marengo and Hale County and Dallas County, that's where winds are in excess of 60 to 70 miles an hour. Further north you go over northern Greene County and northern Hale County, we got some strong winds coming through there as well, maybe in excess of 45 to 50 miles an hour. Again, that's blowing through Utah now. Areas basically along the Sipsey River. Here's Tuscaloosa and Foster's. This is coming basically up the interstate towards Tuscaloosa and up Highway 69. That's your stronger winds right there with this heavier rainfall. And this is going to move through fast. It may last about 30 minutes at your house, and then conditions begin to improve. Now, we're talking about 30 minutes where the winds are maxed out. Obviously, it's breezy all over central Alabama, but this is that core where the winds are going to be stronger as this moves on through. And by the way, I want to mention if you are in Demopolis and Linden and Sweetwater, Myrtlewood, this thing's ramping up for you. I mean, yes, it's still breezy down there, but in terms of the stronger winds, those are now to the east of you, places like Greensboro, Heiberger, Marion, Uniontown, Selma. That's where your core stronger winds is going to be located right now. So again, this is what we're looking at here in Tuscaloosa. Winds now 32 miles an hour. Demopolis showing 29. Not so sure that is an accurate reading there based off of the reports we've seen and numerous power outages around Linden and Demopolis and a lot of trees down in that part of the state. But in this purple swath down here, this is where we got winds in excess of 50 miles an hour. Basically, this area is going to continue northeast just like that. So we'll see winds continue to increase in the metros of Birmingham and Gadsden over the next several hours. This continues to move northeast, and I think this is the brand new advisory from the National Hurricane Center. I think this is the midnight advisory. If that's the case, this thing's still a hurricane, and it's located over Demopolis. This is still a Category 1 hurricane over Demopolis. I think that's a brand new update. We're going to watch that information, see if it does pop up a new update. But that is incredible. We still have a hurricane over Demopolis, Alabama. This is, again, Hurricane Zeta. This made landfall earlier this afternoon over southeast Louisiana and continues to move northeast very quickly. Again, there's your radar loop over the past 3 hours. It started right there within a 3-hour span of time. It's moved that far. So if you calculate that out by 3 or 4 in the morning, it's going to be pushing out of East Alabama. We've also got Chelsea Aaron, who is here in the studio with us. And Chelsea, we've seen quite a few pictures and videos so far from this hurricane.
Yeah, Richard, not too long ago, the core of this storm were moving towards more southern parts of Alabama, towards the coast, where, again, those greater impacts were. We have a few videos from Mobile that I want to show you. One is from Dylan Blunt. This was a massive power flash in western Mobile. Again, you can see the power just really flickers right there as a transformer blows. We've seen a lot of power outages in southern Alabama, a lot in Marengo. You've been telling us that your power has been out for quite some time now. This is also some powerful wind. We're seeing some flooding throughout the roadway in Mobile. This is called Water Street, not a coincidence. A lot of water happening right here in downtown Mobile as we're seeing a lot of flooding issues with these outer rain bands from what was Hurricane Zeta. And again, we're also seeing a truck at the end of this video driving through what seems like this massive amount of water. And if you're out there driving right now, I know it's pretty late, make sure you turn around, don't drown. There's a lot of water on the roads, not as much here in central Alabama, but still it is wet out there. And again, these winds are gusting. We're getting current wind gusts right now, readings of 52 miles per hour in Selma. This is going to be a bit west of Prattville, north towards Marion County. So again, as this core continues to move, it is still really maintaining its speed as we're getting those gusts from 50 to 60 miles per hour with that core moving northeastward. Again, these areas include parts of Marion, Marengo County. It's going to be south of Birmingham, maybe clip the southern corner of the county and then continue to move eastwards towards Gadsden, areas like Rockford. And we will continue to monitor this, but again, make sure you're being aware and taking those necessary precautions. Richard?
Yeah, Chelsea, I want to mention this too. We've got a live camera. This is, I believe, on 15th Street. In Tuscaloosa. And again, what you're looking at, this is looking down 15th Street at multiple angles there from the city of Tuscaloosa. And you see traffic flowing along 15th Street there. And we're beginning to see some of those rain curtains really move down the street quickly, indicating maybe some stronger winds there. And we want you to be careful if you're going to be on the highways. Now, look, if you're south of Interstate 59, we don't encourage any travel at all because of the numerous trees coming down. But if you're in Tuscaloosa, we still want you to use extreme caution. There could be a few trees come down, but you can certainly see in the images there, the video, this is a live video. We got some pretty powerful winds coming through the Tuscaloosa area, likely in excess of 30 to 35 miles an hour now. And this will continue to increase pretty quickly. We'll likely see these winds in excess of 40 to 45 miles an hour within the next 30 minutes or so. And I do want to mention this. We're also on Facebook Live, and I'm looking through some of the comments live and just kind of get a real-time experience of what's happening across our local area. And the power of social media, we get a chance to do that, which is pretty cool. But again, we're still seeing reports of winds still pretty strong in Marengo County. Again, we're not seeing the heavier rain now, but still getting some gusty winds down there. Let's see, numerous reports and no power down to the south. So that's some of the latest on that. To the south of Tuscaloosa, numerous reports of power outages there. And yeah, it's one thing, we're getting more reports. The wind is still blowing pretty hard down there, even though the rain has ended in portions of Marengo and Sumter County. Still got some heavy rain to the northeast of you now. But again, the stronger winds are still occurring down there,
Richard,
even though the rain's moving out, Chelsea.
We actually just got a new wind reading of 61 mile per hour gust in Selma right now.
Wow, 61. I'm not surprised at all based off some of the reports we've gotten. Selma sits down here, and again, you're in that core of what's left of the eye wall itself, and we're beginning to see this quickly transition northeast, but we're still getting those reports down there that are getting some gusty winds in Sumter and Marengo. Even though the heavier rain has moved on, we're still seeing some of that stronger wind transfer down to the surface. Now, in Tuscaloosa, this is what's coming our way. We've got heavy rain coming in now, so from Reform, Aliceville, Samantha, Tuscaloosa, and Northport. This is where your stronger winds are located. They're moving northeast just like that. And places like Utah, Forkland, and Marion, very heavy rain, very strong winds with that as well. Winds are going to be strong enough to bring trees down. Power outage issues are going to be likely here. We've already got a lot of folks in the dark in this part of southwest Alabama. And this thing's still technically a hurricane, a Category 1, based off the midnight update from the National Hurricane Center. They update that once an hour as these things come inland, and that's what we're getting from the National Hurricane Center. And again, if you're in Perry County down to Selma, we're seeing winds gusting to near hurricane force there. Again, as Chelsea mentioned, we got the official, what was that, 61 miles an hour down in Selma?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so 61 at Selma. Now, we've had estimates of over that down here in Linden and Thomaston and Sweetwater and Jackson, Alabama, over in Clark County, the Tom Bigby. Estimated winds of 80 miles an hour there, and that was just earlier this evening. But again, all this is lifting northeast pretty quickly now, so we're seeing these winds really pick up, and we'll likely see that update. Again, Tuscaloosa up to 32 now, and that may be sustained winds. I think I've got the sustained winds on instead of the gust. So we're seeing sustained winds in excess of 30 miles an hour here in the Tuscaloosa area, and obviously a lot stronger the further south you go. So here is, again, the midnight update from the National Hurricane Center. Zeta has winds at 75 miles an hour. If you remember back in 2004, we had Hurricane Ivan that came into the Alabama Gulf Coast. That was a major hurricane, and it maintained hurricane status to about Uniontown, Alabama, at a Category 1, and then was downgraded to a tropical storm. That was back in 2004. Had tremendous tree and power line damage. I was living in Linden at the time. I grew up in Marengo County, and we didn't have power for several days. Some people were out of power for over a week, and I remember that storm very well. This one is moving so fast that, yes, we're going to have a lot of wind damage, but I think the wind damage is going to be a little more scattered compared to one of these slow-moving hurricanes. Just basically sits there in the same spot over and for hours and hours and hours. So one good thing is, Chelsea, this thing's moving so fast that it's going to get out of here quickly. It's not going to last very long.
Yeah, it's really going to scoot out of here. This upper level trough that we have coming through, expect a cold front from that, is really helping to scoot this thing along as it continues to move northeastward. We're also getting some more reports on our Facebook Live here. We have some reports about trees over Highway 25 headed south into Thomaston. Thank you very much again for all of these reports that you are giving us. With these reports, we know better how to explain all of the warnings and watches that you need to be looking out there for. Again, we will continue to track this thing as it continues to move towards portions of central Alabama and mostly south under Birmingham. It probably will clip the southernmost portion of that county, and then by approximately 3 or 4 a.m. it will be moving towards eastern Alabama, and more areas over there will be impacted. So Gadsden, Roxford, Anniston, Jacksonville, areas like that. And we will continue to keep you updated. Again, right now, seeing a lot of gusty winds out there, 50 to 60 miles per hour right now, still in the western Alabama portions of the state, seeing it in Selma, seeing it in Tuscaloosa as well. We're seeing 40 to 50 here in Tuscaloosa. Our sky cam here earlier was shaking quite hard. It looked like it was not going to stay on top of the building.
Let's
here.
take that if we can, because we can see that. As Chelsea, you're mentioning, the tree limbs really blowing around now. The winds are certainly picking up here in the Tuscaloosa area quite a bit. So these winds are going to continue for the next several hours. And let's go back over to graphics, Catherine, just for a minute. I want to show you this. Here's your hurricane. This is it. It's still a Category 1. The center of the storm itself, in terms of the pressure readings, the lowest pressure is on top of Demopolis, Alabama, North Marengo County. You see the past path here, so that's where it's going. It's basically moving in this direction, so it should move right over Birmingham in the next 2 hours. And again, your core, your stronger winds are going to be on the north and east side of this thing. So as this core comes over you, you're going to have those winds at 60 miles an hour easily. But this thing's still a hurricane. We've still got winds in excess of hurricane force down here. So again, this is the latest information as of midnight, 12 o'clock from the Hurricane Center. It's still a hurricane right here over Demopolis, Alabama. Something you don't see often. Typically, these things weaken quickly as they move northward off the Gulf of Mexico. That fuel source for these things to maintain intensity, they typically wind down quickly, but this thing is still a Category 1 hurricane. And again, this is right over West Alabama. There's Tuscaloosa. There's Birmingham. Now, I expect this thing to drop down to tropical storm status, most likely in the next observation in the next hour. So by 1 o'clock, this should be downgraded to a tropical storm. But either way, it's still producing powerful winds across this part of Alabama. Let me show you the radar. We're going to go back over the program in just a couple of minutes, but let me show you radar. If you're in Tuscaloosa, Duncanville, down towards Moundville, we got our stronger winds coming in now. We could see winds in excess of 50 miles an hour in this band as it does continue to move northeast just like that. So if you are in Birmingham, Alabaster, Montevallo, I would say in the next 30 minutes to 1 hour, you'll begin to feel this heavier band, which you got your stronger winds located here, and that'll begin to move over portions of Jefferson and Shelby counties. Right now, that's located from Duncanville to Centerville down to Marion and Clanton. Well, good Thursday morning to you, Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott. Got Chelsea Aaron here in the studio with us as well, and a crew watching the latest on Hurricane Zeta that continues to move across Alabama. Still technically a hurricane. Most likely this will be downgraded to tropical storm in the next update coming up in 30 minutes at 1 o'clock. We'll likely see this at tropical storm status, but certainly some powerful winds in here across central Alabama. It looks like the core of the strongest winds right now, based off of the reports we're getting and the information, also the radar data. It looks like the strongest winds are in Bibb County, Perry, and now Chilton County. This little core right here, we're seeing winds in excess of 60 to 70 miles an hour in gusts. Now for Tuscaloosa, we got heavy rain and strong winds coming into the city of Tuscaloosa and Northport now. These are gusty winds. They're not especially significant, but we are seeing winds of 30 to maybe 40 in gusts here in the Tuscaloosa area, and that may be enough to bring down some trees and power lines. The main threat for that is going to be to the southeast of town, going down Highway 82 towards Centerville and Brent, and over towards Jemison, also Clanton, Maplesville, areas like that. You're going to be dealing with a strong damaging wind. We've got an algo camera that is over in Northport looking across a bridge. This is looking back towards Tuscaloosa, and you see that strong east wind coming across the bridge there. And certainly if you're in a high profile vehicle, you're going to feel that wind as you come across the bridge there. But we are seeing those winds in excess of 30 miles an hour here in the Tuscaloosa area at times, those gusts. And it certainly looks like the core of this is going to stay just south of Tuscaloosa and east of town in terms of those really strong winds there in that part of Alabama. Let's go down to the south. We've had numerous power outage reports. So many trees are down between Forkland, Greensboro, Demopolis, Linden, and Dixon's Mills. Even further south, even more damage. So down here in southern Sumter County, Marengo, southern Greene, southern Hale, and southern Perry County, this is where we've had a lot of reports of damage in terms of of trees down, power outages in that part of the state. And I do want to mention this, by the way, we're on Facebook Live too. If you search the WVUA23 Facebook page, you can also give us real-time reports and we can pass those along to you. You know, the advantage of technology of social media, we can do that now versus the old days. We just had TV and we couldn't get these reports from you. Now we know what's happening right now. So that's awesome advantage we got there. So again, if you're in Perry County and Bibb County and Chilton, and this is where the most powerful winds are going to be located. Again, some of these are darker cores here you see of red shades and orange. There could be easily some winds in excess of 60 miles an hour in gusts there. And again, we're seeing those stronger winds here in Tuscaloosa at 32. And also want to mention this real quick. Zeta is still a hurricane. This is a Category 1, winds at 75 miles an hour, basically sitting on top of Demopolis, moving northeast quickly at over 30 miles an hour. Let's go to the camera that is on University of Alabama campus. This is over at on the Strip in front of the stadium. Look at the wind kicking up now. You can see those sheets of wind blowing across the UA campus on University Boulevard. And again, the top left corner, that is on the Strip there. And let's see, the bottom left corner too, that's just coming off of the Strip, but this is all on University Boulevard, and it looks like some ponding on the roadways now where some of the rain is coming down heavy enough to produce some flooding issues here on the University of Alabama campus in Tuscaloosa. But you see traffic still flowing along here in the Tuscaloosa area, but understand if you're southeast of Tuscaloosa, and especially those counties we're talking about like Bibb County, Chilton County, and Perry County, we certainly don't advise travel there because, in fact, the winds are so strong. There's a lot of trees coming down there. And if you're on a rural road and you're in a darker area where you can't see, you could come across a tree down over the road in no time. So, again, Zeta continues that hurricane status, but it will be downgraded to tropical storm soon. This thing is racing northeast now across central Alabama. In fact, if you look here, the radar loop, this is a 3-hour loop. So beginning the loop, the center was down here over Waynesboro. And then you go to now, looks like the center is just about on top of Greensboro. I'd say the core that's probably on Greensboro now and moving northeast that fast. So again, this is going to be a quick hitting event. We also got a Chelsea Aaron who's in the studio with us. And Chelsea, one good thing is this gets out of here fast.
Yeah, Richard, it's really just scooting along. We're currently getting some updates of people experiencing some damages there. We're having some gusty winds and lots of rain currently in Coaling and also in Gordo. These places are located very near to our campus here. So again, expect a lot of this to keep occurring as it continues to push northeastward, really scooting along out of our area here. By approximately 1 a.m., you'll see things really lessen up and die down. But I just want to show you what this storm was looking like just a few short hours ago. Approximately 2 hours ago, it was hitting or near Mobile. You can see we have a massive power flash. Someone posted this. This is, I think, Dylan Blunt in West Mobile. Really transformers blowing everywhere. Richard was saying having a lot of power outages across much of southern parts of central Alabama and, of course, near the coast where they experienced the majority of those impacts. Here's another video. This is through Mobile. This is Water Street near downtown Mobile. Again, no coincidence there. Seeing a lot of water on Water Street as we're getting ponding and flooding on roadways from those heavy downpours. Had some lull in the rain today, but right now really getting a good bit of those outer rain bands, and wind gusts are still a threat. Seeing them right now from 50 to 60 miles per hour currently in that core as it continues to move northeastward. We will continue tracking that and giving you further updates, so make sure you are staying safe and staying off the road. Richard.
Yeah, Chelsea, so just looking at some of the reports here through social media, and yeah, there's a lot of people reporting some trees down. In fact, I'm getting a structural damage report over in Gallion. That's in northeast Marengo, on the northeast Marengo Southern Hale County line. Of their roof is actually leaking because of tree limbs are falling and a lot of trees down in their area. So we're getting some reports of even some structural damage. Not sure if that was a tree that fell on a house there or if that was just by the wind causing problems for their roof to actually leak there in Gallion. Let's see, other reports. And while we do that, we're looking at 15th Street in Tuscaloosa. And again, you see where winds are really picking up here in the Tuscaloosa area, but it certainly looks like the stronger wind issues are going to be just southeast of town. Still getting reports of strong winds in Marengo County, though. Very interesting. The rain stopped there, but we're still seeing those strong pressure gradient winds down there. But again, here in the Tuscaloosa area, looking down, you saw that video from 15th Street. That was live. And again, this continues to move on through our local area. You see the radar loop, and the core of the stronger winds are going to be really along Highway 82. So if you are basically from Tuscaloosa to Brent and Centerville to about Maplesville, that's where your stronger winds are going to be located. Understand the center of circulation somewhere between Demopolis and Greensboro now. That's where the core of this storm is. So you got the strong winds that wrap all the way around this thing. And even though you don't have rain down here in Sumter and Marengo and Dallas County and Wilcox, you still got strong winds wrapping around that center circulation. But as that center moves northeast just like that, basically parallel to the interstate 59 corridor, your winds are going to begin to slack up just a bit. So just hang on for a couple more hours here in West Alabama, and things will begin to improve quickly. In fact, if you're in West Alabama, I'd say by 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. If you're west and south of Tuscaloosa, conditions should be much more improved. But understand, areas to the north like Birmingham, Gadsden, Adiana, you'll still deal with this for several more hours. This is producing a lot of rainfall here in our local area. In fact, here in Tuscaloosa, Northport, Samantha, Duncanville, Coaling, Vance, heavy rain falling there, strong gusty winds coming through as well. But again, it certainly looks like the core, based off of reports we're getting, the core of your stronger winds are down here in Centerville, Maplesville, and approaching Clanton. So again, this continues to lift northeast just like that. We could see winds in excess of 60 miles an hour, maybe stronger gusts than that based off what we're seeing. But still, again, even though the rain has stopped down here, we are still getting reports of strong winds in areas like Livingston, Jefferson, Gallion, Linden, Sweetwater, Thomaston, and Fonsdale. So again, the winds are still blowing pretty hard down there in Marengo County. And again, we're seeing winds now up to 35 here in Tuscaloosa. We'll see those reports continue to add up over the next hour or so. The totals will continue to add up in terms of the wind speeds, especially north and east of Tuscaloosa now. Zeta still at 75 miles an hour. We get a brand new update in about 20 minutes from the Hurricane Center at 1 o'clock. We get a brand new update from the National Hurricane Center. Most likely at that point, this will be a tropical storm. So again, still a powerful storm coming across Alabama now. There's a radar loop. You see how fast this thing is moving off to the northeast. And I would say by around 3, 4 o'clock for the western side of the state, things should be winding down pretty fast. So again, strong winds continue. Some spots 50 to 60 miles an hour. We do maintain that inland tropical storm warning for much of central and south Alabama, really along that Interstate 59 corridor. And everybody down to the south. Power outages are already being reported here to the south of Tuscaloosa especially. And really, if you're south of the Interstate 59 corridor, that's where most of the outage is going to be. Let me show you this. This is our Futurecast model. By 2:30 in the morning, the core is beginning to move into East Alabama. Notice West Alabama, the heavier rain beginning to move away, but understand it's going to be pretty windy for the next several hours. By around 4 a.m., conditions should be dramatically improving. By around sunrise, it's going to be a little breezy, but by sunrise, conditions will be much more improved. And a good Thursday morning to you, Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott, along with Chelsea Aaron here in the Weather Center. And in the studio, we continue to watch what is left of Hurricane Zeta. It is a weakening storm now, but we've still got these strong winds ongoing now across much of central and west Alabama. It looks like the winds are beginning to slack up just a bit over Sumter and Marengo. We've still got some powerful winds there, but they're beginning to show signs of decreasing now. Your more powerful winds are located in this stronger convective band that's right there in Bibb County and Chilton and Shelby. Very strong winds and heavy rainfall. Also some strong winds here in Tuscaloosa County and Jefferson County as well. The center of the storm looks like it's right over Duncanville. That's where your low-level center of circulation looks like it is now. And it's moving northeast basically along the Interstate 59 corridor heading towards Birmingham. And again, we've got gusty winds with this, some isolated areas of power outages here in Tuscaloosa County your more widespread power outage issues appear to be south of town, down towards places like Greensboro, Demopolis, Linden, Thomaston, Hugo, areas like that. And then to the northeast, we're beginning to see reports of power outages in Bibb County, Shelby, and also Chilton, where the winds are very strong now. And that's moving east quickly in places like Sylacauga in Talladega County, beginning to see those stronger winds now. And if you're in Coosa County, Weguffco over towards Rockford and Goodwater, we got the stronger gusty winds approaching 50 to 60 miles an hour there right now. Further to the northeast, Aniana, back towards Gadsden, Anniston, winds are beginning to increase. A lot of rainfall there. And again, we'll continue to see those conditions deteriorate in that part of Alabama as this low rapidly moves northeast. Again, winds are quite gusty now. All right, here's a brand new update. All right, Zeta is now tropical storm. That's the 1 a.m. advisory. You know, we talked about this would likely happen. Still got 70-mile-an-hour winds, which is incredible. We're not really seeing a lot of reports of those 70-mile-an-hour winds making it to the ground. Most likely there are some gusts that are approaching that 70-mile-an-hour mark across the central Alabama. But notice, again, 70-mile-an-hour winds is moving northeast at 31 miles per hour. And what's happening is wind shear is really blowing the storm apart. So your tropical storm is over Duncanville. The center circulation is over Duncanville. Your upper level circulation is down here. Watch how this thing moves northeast away from that. So we call this decoupling. The surface low and the mid and upper level low have decoupled. They pulled apart from each other. And a lot of times when that happens, you have a hard time getting those really strong winds. I'm talking about the 70, 80 mile an hour winds down to the ground level. You get strong winds of 50, 60 maybe, but you're not seeing those winds of 70 to 80 that could be occurring if this thing was still vertically stacked. So again, that's what's happening there. It's moving northeast. In fact, let me step off here for a moment. I want to zoom into this thing and show you where the center is. And I think it's over Duncanville based off of what we're seeing on radar. And yeah, there it is. It's moving into Duncanville in southeast Tuscaloosa County. That's the center of the storm. This is still a tropical storm at this point, and it is moving northeast very quickly at 31 miles per hour. This thing's going to be out of central Alabama, likely within the next few hours. Let me pull on our future radar product, and you can see that. And again, it's going to move northeast very rapidly through the morning hours. By 7:30 in the morning, it's just some showers around, a little breezy. But again, in terms of the stronger winds and heavier rainfall, that's going to begin to pull out of our local area pretty quickly. We've also got Chelsea Aaron, who is here with us. Chelsea, and one thing, you know, we haven't seen a lot of major damage reports in the area. We've seen trees down here and there, but the reports have been pretty scattered.
Yeah, reports really scattered across central Alabama, really seeing those reports come in. Power outages especially. We saw reports of power outages in Marengo County. We also saw them near Marion County as we're getting some higher wind gusts in Selma. This was earlier on. We saw some power outages currently in Duncanville. This is around Tuscaloosa County. Again, as this continues to push northeastwards, but good news that it has dropped down to a tropical storm. It is a strong tropical storm, as that with sustained winds of 70 miles per hour. But as Richard was speaking earlier, we're not seeing really any of those sustained wind gusts near the surface. But I do want to show you what this storm was packing earlier. Really packing a punch as it went through Mobile. Here's a video of a power outage. A transformer just blew. This is in West Mobile. Dylan Blunt posted this. We also have another video in downtown Mobile on Water Street. It's not a coincidence there, as getting a lot of water there from rain. Those outer rain bands causing some flooding issues, and again, you can really just see the wind whipping there. And speaking of flooding, we do have some flash flood warnings in effect for Autauga, Bibb, Chilton, Perry, Shelby, and St. Clair County. This is until 3:45 a.m. Again, we're still getting a lot of rain from those outer rain bands, which is continuing to increase the water on the roadways. Make sure you are staying safe if you're out and about right now. It is rather late, but again, if you're out and about, make sure you turn around and do not drown. Do not try to go through an impassable roadway of water, and make sure you are also looking out for trees down as well on the roadway. Richard?
Yeah, Chelsea, that's a good point about the trees being down. You know, if anybody's on the highways now traveling, really want you to use caution because you could have some trees fall. If you're on some of those county roads or not very well lit highways, you may end up in some problems if you run across a tree down over the roadway. And I'll say this, there's so many reports. I'm just checking social media here. We're on Facebook Live on the WVUA23 Facebook page, and we're getting so many reports of power outages down there in Marengo and Perry County and Hale County, especially. It seems like a lot of people are out of power. And the good news is, Chelsea, we're seeing the winds come down there around Demopolis and Linden and Hugo. Still a little gusty, but in terms of the stronger winds, we're beginning to see those come down in that part of Alabama, indicating the surface lows pulling away from there and that a pressure gradient is beginning to relax just a bit. We got a live view from Bryant Denny. This is in Tuscaloosa, and again, we got gusty winds here, and we do note the wind has changed directions now out of the north at 25 sustained, and the wind becoming north in Tuscaloosa, indicating that the tropical storm Zeta is beginning to move away from the Tuscaloosa area. So again, we're starting to get that back edge of the tropical storm there. So still some gusty winds here in the Tuscaloosa area. From our Bryant Denny camera, we've seen these winds really gust over the past hour or so. It looked like they were beginning to increase, and now we're starting to see the core of that tropical storm pull away from the Tuscaloosa area. So still pretty rough down towards Duncanville. Let me go back over to radar and show you that. This is where we're talking about in terms of the stronger winds that are really from Duncanville back towards Brent, Centerville, Chelsea, and Maline, areas like that in Shelby County, Helena. Also in portions of Chilton County, really all of Chilton County and Coosa County. And the center circulation is right there, basically on top of Duncanville. That's where the core of the tropical storm is now. But really the stronger winds are kind of displaced around that, not necessarily right there at the middle of the lowest pressure. And based off the reports you're getting, it seems like your stronger winds are in a swath over here from Birmingham to Rockford. Even down towards Montgomery, we're seeing some pretty strong winds out there as well, in excess of 50 miles per hour based off some of these reports. So let me go back into the Tuscaloosa area. I'm not going to keep you on long because I know the conditions are about to begin to improve here in the Tuscaloosa area. Still pretty windy out there, heavy rain, but notice the rain is just about to end for Tuscaloosa. This will continue for Birmingham for another hour, and then the rain will begin to end in Birmingham. But again, still some gusty conditions out there. There's some trees down here and there, but this surely seems like, at least some of the reports, the most widespread tree and power line damage has been south of Interstate 20, down towards the Marengo, Perry, Hale, and Greene counties down to the south. And which that's where we were talking about, where the core of the storm was going to track. And again, what's left of that core, the strongest winds are coming into Shelby County out of Bibb County now. In fact, Catherine, we got any cameras here in Tuscaloosa? We had mentioned we're going to show some of that. This is on McFarland Boulevard at University Boulevard. This is close to the River Bridge. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, this is over there on the east side of campus, yeah, right by DCH. So again, this is very close to DCH. We're seeing traffic still flowing on Highway 82. This is on McFarland Boulevard. And you can see the wind still blowing fairly strong here in the Tuscaloosa area. But in terms of the stronger wind gusts, it certainly looks like that has dodged the city just a bit to the southeast. But again, you see traffic, a few cars here and there on the roadways. Of course, it is 1 o'clock in the morning, so it's not a whole lot of people out on the roads this time of the night. But again, that's what we're dealing with now, strong winds and heavy rainfall. But this rain is beginning to move on pretty quick. Looks like here in the Tuscaloosa area in the next 10 to 15 minutes, the heavier rain begins to taper off. And yes, there's going to be some showers through the morning occasionally, but the core of this stuff is moving off to the east, and we'll begin to see conditions improve quickly over West Alabama by around 4 o'clock in the morning. All of this should be into Georgia. So by 4 a.m., even our East Alabama counties should be in the clear. In terms of the stronger winds, we'll still have some showers around, but again, the conditions will quickly improve.
Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott stayed here late last night to track that storm as it moved through our area. Richard, How are things looking now?
Hey, Lynn, things much more quiet across central Alabama. It's breezy because the cold front's moving across the state, but I want to take you back to this hurricane track. This thing was 1 mile per hour shy of a Category 3 hurricane, a major hurricane when it came into the Louisiana Gulf Coast, as Lynn said, about this time yesterday, formally making landfall, and then it moved northeast across central Alabama. There's the actual track, the line right there. It was still a Category 1 hurricane at Duncanville, Alabama, in Tuscaloosa County. It was still, according to the National Hurricane Center, classified as a hurricane and then downgraded to a tropical storm after that at about 2 a.m. when it was downgraded to a tropical storm. But a lot of wind issues across Alabama. Numerous reports, especially just southeast of that center of circulation. In fact, the center there did pass over East Tuscaloosa County, but notice most of the damage was down here to the south and to the east of that center circulation. We really expected that to be a trend where that core was what's left of the eye wall. And again, you see where that moved just northeast across our central Alabama counties. Had a lot of wind reports. This was actually the forecast we showed yesterday, and based off the reports we were looking at, this is pretty much dead on in terms of the reports and the wind speeds. In fact, we had some wind gusts in this red shaded area over Marengo County, Perry, Bibb County, Chilton County, and Shelby County, over 70 miles an hour. In fact, we had some official anemometer reports over 70 miles an hour in Shelby and Chilton counties. Incredible power of the storm as it did move on in. Good news is it's gone. Temperatures are cooler, though, dropping fast as the cold front moves in.